Hello everyone, this is Scarzig, and today I have a special guest. We have with us today the Duelist World Championship runner-up, Dragall. How you doing, my friend? I'm a big fan, really glad you could be here
Oh,
today.
thanks, man. No, it's a pleasure. Excited for the questions in the interview.
All right, awesome, awesome. Now, before we get started, is there anything that you'd like to open up with?
Just that I'm really happy with the performance, my performance at Worlds. It's a bummer not to have won, but
Hmm.
it is what it is. And next year we'll try a little harder and prepare a little better.
All right. Well, that sounds really great. And you know what? Let's back up a little bit. We mentioned a lot of people already know your history with the game, and I figure we can get started by getting to know you a little bit better. Where are you from, man?
I'm from Montreal, Canada.
Montreal, nice, nice. There's a lot of players definitely in the United States, in Europe. Eugerin is from Japan, but I think you're the first player we've heard of from Canada. Do you know of
No,
any
no,
other
Alpha's from Canada, Alpha
Alpha
Century,
Century? I was just going to ask if there was any other players.
and Min Maxer. So like
And Min Maxer, cool.
second and third place for Canada. So we feel pretty
There
good.
you go, representing. I'm actually Canadian on my mother's side, so
Oh,
that's rad.
yeah. No, we're
but
small, but we're powerful.
absolutely. So I mean, the dedication is definitely there, and it paid off for you. Everybody again is aware of how much time and how much preparation you put into the game,
Oh
and
yeah.
so let me ask you this: the first day, the group stage was all best of fives, and then day two was all best of sevens. Even with all the time you put into the game, do you think that that prepared you for that really grueling bracket, or was the fatigue still getting to you?
On day two.
Yeah.
Oh, there was ridiculous. It started at 9 a.m. here and it
Mm.
finished at like 8:30 p.m.
My goodness.
I went to Subway for 15 minutes. That was a little break, but no, it was exhausting. And oh my God, I think I might have probably made a couple of slight, miscalculations because of the fatigue. Maybe I lost the tournament
Hmm.
because of it. Maybe Furoka had better stamina, but yeah, it did change the dynamic later on a lot.
Right, and we've seen, a lot of players, again, the more experienced tournament players trying to deal with that fatigue a little bit better, and I suppose that it always creeps through. You manage to get some food in the middle, and that's really fantastic. And it's important, again, in these long sessions to try to keep yourself healthy, keep yourself hydrated when you're going into these tournaments.
Oh yeah.
And another thing I really wanted to ask that I was curious about. Is there any other card games that you were, maybe experimenting with, dabbling in right now, or is Duelist still like your main thing?
Um, I played Magic the Gathering for about 15 years.
Wow. Okay.
Uh, I'm 25, so I started playing when I was like 11, 10, 11. But that was off and on. But usually when I play a game, I focus on that game. So right now, Duelist is the only thing I play, um, and
Mm,
that's what I'm focusing on.
right. And again, we've already seen the payoff for that dedication. Have you been keeping up with Magic the Gathering at all? Do you still keep tabs on it, or you just
Yeah.
completely left it behind?
No, like it's the casual game. I'll do it with friends. I'll go to an F&M, once every couple months. But
Right. Right.
yeah, just casually.
Okay, well that's really awesome. I'm glad that you're able to still keep up with that. I've got a couple friends myself that are actually really big into Magic right now. It's definitely the grandfather of competitive CCGs, and it's still going strong. You mentioned that you're still sticking with Duelist. You want to main this game. Um, what plans do you have going forward with Duelist? Are you just going to remain in the competitive scene? Are you thinking about maybe content creation? Where are your plans there?
I will definitely stay in the competitive scene as long as there is one. Hopefully, I'd like it to expand.
Mm-hmm.
Juby's being very optimistic, and he's saying there's lots of new things for next year, and that's making me really happy. I want the game to get more exposure. So I myself will probably start streaming once I Right now, I'm in an apartment where my internet is not good enough to stream.
Mm-hmm.
I'm moving in the midsummer or something, so hopefully I can set up something that will be good enough.
Okay.
And no, I will definitely. I'm friends with a lot of the grandmasters and the top players, and everyone wants Duelist to succeed, or not everyone, but a lot of people do. But they're just peeved about some directions it's going in. But I think if the stars can still align and it can become a huge scene, and yeah, I'll definitely try to make it next year.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear that you're going to be getting into streaming. I know that a lot of the streamers right now have been streaming for a long time, but aren't, at that high competitive level the way, the Grandmasters are playing. I think off the top of my head, Faded, Kolos the Dragon, these really top ranked players. And I think that you bringing your knowledge and expertise to the streaming scene would really help us out. And I do agree that the developers do need to do a bit more advertising the game. I know that, in the past, their excuse was, oh, we want to, just focus on the gameplay first. We want to get a really good product together. But I think that an expansion in that area is needed.
Oh, for sure.
Is there any advice that you would like to give to the devs? You can be candid here.
Here, I'll well, there's a lot, tons of things can be improved on. There's always, but for instance, when League of Legends was, or it still is, I guess. I don't follow much anymore, but when I did follow it, when there was a big tournament, there were websites set up. There were, this guy's facing this guy. Everything happened over a few weekends. There was a huge stream. There was big hype, right? And my friends and I would make weekends of watching these big events. We just, we were so into it.
Yeah, gotcha. That was me back in the day too. Mm-hmm.
Duelist isn't there yet. There is a bit of a fan following, and it's great, and it's there are some kind of star players, but for a game to really succeed, I think something resembling that thing in League of Legends should happen. In World of Warcraft, I used to follow that too. You had characters like Wreckful and stuff, and everyone just watched it because they want to see Wreckful, destroy people on Rogue or whatever. And it was kind of a hype.
I get it. So more hype building from the Duelist developers, more hype building from the community in general, definitely.
But also just scale matters too. If there's people hyping and there's 8 people who want this guy to win, and 8 people, you're like, okay, well that's cool. But if you need 200,000 people say this guy's gonna win, oh shit, and it just gets you going.
Right, and that's the thing. You can't look away when there's numbers like that.
Exactly.
So that's definitely solid advice. One other thing we were talking about, that's for the devs, for expanding the competitive scene. Again, you said that Juvie is very optimistic expanding in the competitive aspect. But in terms of just gameplay, is there anything that you would like to see added to the game? What's on your wish list that you'd like to see perhaps for the next expansion? New support for certain archetypes, new mechanics explored. What are you thinking there?
I'm not a designer, so I can't really make up a design.
Right, just balance be damned. We don't have to worry about hard numbers, but just any sort of thing that you think might be cool.
Like most of the people, I do not like RNG in any way. And I understand that there is RNG in card games, but it can be minimized very, very much. And the more skilled this game takes, the more I enjoy it. The more you say that every little intricate decision, every replace, every little minion you play, I like that. All my decks are very anti RNG. I try to make them all, apart from drawing itself.
Right.
It's as little RNG as you can get, pretty much, and I really, really like that. So I hope they can make a meta and modify the cards a bit so they can be a little bit more like that.
So you would like to see, them go back and clean up some of these cards. I know that we've heard some talk in the community about that as well. They already have the new expansion in the works. The devs have talked on Twitter. They're very excited about it. But perhaps they could, allocate a few bodies to going back and cleaning up some of the older cards, getting rid of a little bit of the randomness, because, it's definitely there for exciting moments. The devs have made it apparent, right, that they want it in the game, but they don't want it to be competitive, right? They took Meltdown off the table because that was just absurd. Everybody was in agreement over that, once things really shook out. So regarding the future of Duelist, and you said you want to have minimized RNG, you want to have more focus on, the skill of the game.
Well, that's why people follow you. Like they don't follow people don't won't watch championships when it's like when it's rolling a dice. They
Hmm.
want to
Hmm.
see people outthink. Like it's like chess. Duels is a lot like chess, and they if you can show that, then people will watch it and get hyped by it, get excited, and kind of learn from it. Because viewers often want to learn because they themselves want to become high level competitors. But if this guy just won because he got the right meltdown RNG, they're like, oh well, okay, I'm not gonna pursue this.
Right. I fully agree that especially I feel so bad, right, for the players who happen to tune into a stream and that's what they were seeing, the meta at the time. And it's just so upsetting because that's like when something like that is so powerful and you're like basically almost forced to use it because it's that good. That was actually didn't they did the that survey, the community survey, and that was one of the big failings
Yeah.
that they had picked up on, right? That players felt like they couldn't do what they wanted and still win. Like I definitely that I'm a player like that myself, right? You don't want to be forced into certain archetypes just because you feel like that's the only way you can be competitive. I hadn't touched Vanar in so long because of their recent changes.
Yeah. But things like Spiral, for instance, I think it's fine. Like Meltdown,
Hmm.
the mass of the unit is fine. It was just that slight element.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I
because
think I think Revenant's fine. I think all those cards, even if they're considered very strong, everything can be played around in this game. Every single thing can be played around. Holy Immolation, Mechanta, they can all be played around. And if you watch big high end tournaments with the best of the best, they will play around it, and those cards will not be good enough to just win you the championship.
right, that is very well put. All of these cards, you just have to learn it. You have to become used to it. All of these cards, honestly, everyone has had the spotlight on them. This needs to be nerfed. Some of them still to this day, right? Holy
Hmm.
Immolation is a huge offender. People have been asking for nerfs since alpha, right? And everybody that used to be the counter, you just have to do this, and this to play around it, minimize its effects. And I'm really glad to hear that from you that you acknowledge, right, that you can play around a lot of these cards. You just need to take out that luck aspect. And there's certain cards like
Well, a lot of players, what they do is they hope. They're big hopers.
mhm,
Like, oh, you know what? He did it last turn. I'm gonna hope he doesn't. And then it happens again because the other guy
mhm,
was smart and maybe held two Holy Immolation. He had like double Bloodseer, double Holy Immolation. He's like, you know what? They went for it. Now, instead of hoping, you can say, you know what? They probably do have another one and play around it. And then they are fucked because they kept a hand that was meant to kind of um, play into that.
right. So yeah, and again, see, when you're playing around these cards, it creates another layer of mind games, and it just adds into the skill of the game. And
Yes.
so I think that you not only taking out the randomness, it's to add ways to play around cards. So not only are we touching on the minimizing the randomness aspect, it's increasing interactivity, right? This is another major theme, especially now after the World Championships is starting to come back up into discussion. In regards to interactivity, especially in competitive play, you want to try to take as much interactive. You don't want to interact with your opponent as much because that's how you win, right? You want to minimize the amount your opponent can interact with your cards. But I think that perhaps that's gotten away from the developers a little bit. What are some examples would you say are really great cards to play around? We know Holy Immolation and Mechanta are like perfect position. Maybe Dancing Blades. Are there any other ones that you really haven't seen people discuss?
Every single card can be played around, and
Mm-hmm.
every single card should be considered. When I play against Riva, I'll try to play around Ghost Lightning, Twin Strike, Phoenix Fire. It's hard to play around maybe some very obscure combos, but but then you have to consider that okay, if they have to answer this with two cards or three cards, then it's worth it. But you can play around that. You play around every single card you can, unless you know the card is not going to be there. Um,
Yeah, I
but
completely understand. I had a game. I got blown out by Riva, right? Because she turned one Crescent Spear. I said, oh no, she has an artifact. I'm going to try to be aggressive. I went second, double two drop, bam, right into Twin Strike, got blown out, right? And then the next game, you learn from that. You say, I'm only going to play one minion.
oh yeah,
So I mean, that's definitely that's why I love about this game. You get blown out, you learn, and I think that the developers can move into that aspect of the gameplay is just learning from your mistakes, and you're going to become that much more skilled. Now the Riva deck that you had built and perfected. I was there, I believe, because it was the Snow Chaser Cup, right? That you had debuted that deck. It was right after they had nerfed Mana Vortex and etc.
It was a little before that I made that. I maybe
Okay.
debuted in the tournament scene, but I made that deck last May.
Hmm.
Of course, some of the cards like Zenda weren't in it yet, but that deck is about a year old, and it's
Right.
been slowly. I was a cast main for like my first 3 months playing this, and then I said, you know what? No one plays a Riva deck with this kind of control board thing, and I'm like, I wasn't even that great then. I made a new account and did and made this deck and made it to S like 5, 7, or 8 that month.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
maybe 15, like top 15 or something. I don't remember, but
Right. And that's just great that that you were able to come up with this, explore this new archetype, and just because you played it so well and because it was so well crafted and inventive, you were able to climb. And that, I believe, is just so indicative of how you feel about the game and how people want Duelist to be.
yeah, exactly. And that I love that deck.
Mhm.
And every there's so many little split decisions, small decisions you can make. There's so many things. It allows you to play around almost anything. Of course, it can lose. Of course, you can get bad draws. Of course, the other
Mhm.
person can outplay you. But that deck can almost beat anything, and can almost lose to anything.
And that's very well put. Are you going to be now? Do you like Songhai in general, or is it just that specific deck that you've sort of grown a soft spot for?
Yeah, more the deck. I mean, I don't have anything against any factions, but we all have our little
Hmm.
preferences. I
Right.
like Magmar a lot,
Hmm.
and Cass, and then Songhai would probably be third. But that deck is probably my favorite thing to play.
All right. I mean, that's awesome. And would you like to see any support for like a control Songhai? I believe Smash the Hamster has now been experimenting with that archetype quite a lot.
Oh yeah, we got tons of like Jogda has a new deck every couple days. He's always
That
um
is true.
I mean, support or not, there's always something you can do. The deck exists right now, and I've seen other people take the deck and modify it and change this and change that. So of course the more cards the better, as long as
Mhm.
they're balanced or as long as they find their way into the meta. But yeah, sure.
All right. Well, that's great. And I mean, now with the new expansion, again, I mentioned this before, right around the corner. Well, not right around the corner. Maybe within the next few months. Right. It's definitely in the works. They've been nerfing, making room for other cards. Now they mentioned that they don't want to do this anymore. Did when you read those patch notes 1.83, and they were talking about how they don't want to start nerfing things for design space. They're going to let us keep our toys until those nerfs are absolutely necessary. And how did you feel about that philosophy?
Um, it's hard to say. I don't. It's it the way
Or,
the
or
game
just the way or just the way they choose to balance things in general.
the way games work like this though is there's always going to be the perceived best deck, and if that deck gets nerfed, there's the new perceived best deck. But
Hmm.
the reality is that the perceived best deck isn't necessarily the best deck. So whether they nerf it or not, I think that the meta is fine now at the
Hmm.
highest end, but maybe not. I don't really know about the middle. So maybe if there's some really oppressive things that don't take much skill, or
Okay.
it's a lot more complicated than I could just say here. But
Hmm. That that
I,
then that's definitely well said, right?
if the
Because
community wants Arcanist to be nerfed, and like I know Kolos is a big kind of pioneer in that, and saying that it's the best thing in the meta. It's OP, whatever. Then maybe they should nerf it, but I don't really have a problem with Arcanist. You
right,
just got to adapt and you win.
yeah, I have I have some thoughts about Arcanist too, right? Because it seems like it's the perfect deck that just gets overrun by something aggressive, and they always seem to get by the skin of their teeth, right? They'll pull a little bit of healing out of a Trinity Wing or something, and so I think that it's like it's almost there where it's like has like a really great counter. And I think that, players, if they're more open to experimentation rather than resigning themselves to, oh, this is the best deck, and especially now with Enfeeble off of the table, that was one of the main counters, per se, to Arcanist after they got out of control. And so perhaps if there's just more answers, to keeping that from happening, the players would be more, likely to experiment. But, hopefully, again, with this next expansion, we can see some more interactivity, some lessened RNG, some stuff that you can play around, and that they can listen to the community at this point, especially the pro scene with the World Championships now past. A lot of people are coming out of the woodwork and giving their thoughts, and I thought that this would be a great opportunity for you to add your opinions to that. And so I think that we can. I think we've pretty much touched on anything. Before we get out of here, is there any parting words that you'd like to maybe give to our viewers or maybe to the developers?
I just like to say thanks for watching this and the World Championship if you're following it, and just try to encourage Duelist yourself. If you do love the game, try to promote it. And I really hope the devs can kind of learn from their mistakes, and that there's still a lot of time. So anyway, if it survives, great, and I hope it does.
Okay, well, that is, I think that definitely sums it up. I personally, recently I've realized that I have not been as critical of the game as I could be, so I'm going to be working on that myself. So thank you.
But too much criticism can be. There's every single day you go on Reddit, people are complaining. Maybe there's a message that's saying, devs, you should listen to people complaining, but sometimes just leave it alone. Like it's exhausting when people are complaining all day, and it gives a very bad attitude to the community of the game. It's like, oh yeah, but there's no skill, or just relax, dudes. Just play the game, enjoy it, and if you don't enjoy it, then maybe it's not for you.
Exactly, because the other thing too is that players are not necessarily designers. You even mentioned earlier, that was very humble of you to say, hey, I'm not a developer, I can't really go into detail, but the players, I believe it was mentioned, it was in a famous article or a talk or something that that came from the Magic the Gathering scene, and it was basically saying that players are great at identifying problems but really bad at solving them. So I think that the developers definitely can hear when the community identifies a problem, maybe be a bit more proactive about coming up with a solution, or being a bit more vocal that they are working on a solution, that they are aware of this feedback.
And if I give a little more feedback to the devs, my opinion here, I think one thing that makes it more popular and more fun to watch is when this, once again, scale. But money-wise, that's there too. $10,000. Like Gwen's had their World Championships was $100,000.
Right. I was just talking about that. I was just talking about that today, actually. Yeah.
And Hearthstone as well. I don't know, a couple of million or something. I know that everyone who made it to Worlds of Hearthstone got like $120,000.
Wow.
Just so that makes it pretty big too, and that makes the competitive scene so much more competitive. I'm not going to be S rank 1, playing 2 games a day, because there's going to be like 10,000 other people who want to be S rank 1.
Right.
And then they get sponsored because the people who are sponsoring say, oh, this guy's the top. Let's give him some money. So then when there's money in the scene, everything just explodes. And right now, duels might be fishing for money. So,
okay.
But I don't know what the devs can do about that problem. Maybe go deeper in the piggy bank, or maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you brought it up. That is, that's something that they can focus on for sure. Figure out, where they can fish up these extra funds, because, especially in today's scene, right? Esports is bigger than it has ever been, competitive gaming in general, right? And so these monetary prizes are going to bring people out of the woodwork. And
yes.
That's going to increase your player base. You're going to get even more feedback. And so in the long run, it pays for itself. So I definitely agree that an increased prize pool would be the way to go for the next competitive season for Duelist.
Yeah, I'm not sure this point applies to this, but when I was playing League of Legends, I was like a high plat, low diamond player, but I
Right.
wanted to be a pro player. And I always watched the tournaments kind of as a fan, but I also wanted to eventually get it there. I never did. I was never good enough at the micro part of the game.
Mm.
But that's what scale does. Everyone's trying to get to the top, even the people who are stuck in gold. But there's just so many people that you can't get out of gold, even though maybe if you were here now, you could be an S rank player. There's just so much competition,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we're all fighting and scrambling for the spots. And the opens have 1,000 people. Anyway,
Yeah, that would just be amazing.
yeah, it'd be wonderful. Yeah.
And that's the whole thing too. A thriving competitive scene fuels the dreams of the casual players. You know, they want to break into that. They want to become good.
Yeah.
And now that Duelist has been around for so long, there's so many resources, so many, you know, skilled players willing to give their feedback and their advice and help these newer players out, that it's much easier to get into the game, to get reasonably skilled, right? And then you can start working on your micros, your replaces, right? I think that is one of the key things that separates really, really high ranked players from the diamond ones, or like the lower S ranks, right?
Yeah.
That replacing it's just like looking into the future and knowing the matchup on a completely different level.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. And
All right.
and I think that right about that just about covers it, don't you think so?
I think we're good.
All right. And again, thank you so much for joining me today, sir. Again, look forward to Dragall's stream. As soon as I hear about it, I'm going to let all you guys know. And that's going to be a moment of celebration. So once again, I'll be looking forward to all of your endeavors in the future, and I'll be supporting you all the way.
Thanks a lot,
And
man.
shout out to all the viewers showing up for this interview today. And I will see all of you next time. Have a good one.
All right. Cheers. See ya.